Yes, we're back and we'll explain why it's been a bit of a wait very shortly. RuggaMatrix, of course, brought to you by Strike, Australia's leading provider of Bluetooth car kits and all manner of other tracking devices, cradles, you name it. It's all there at strike.com.au. Check them out and you get 10% off. And tonight we go back to the future, back to Les Kiss, as he talks about the autumn series and the one that got away against the All Blacks, also the Wallabies. There's plenty to talk about with England as well, and of course looking forward to the next Six Nations and the Heineken Cup. It's all before us. RuggaMatrix International, brought to you by Strike. Yes, hello and welcome to RuggaMatrix International. We've been back after a couple of months. It's been amazing. In fact, the last guest we had is this guy over my shoulder, Les Kiss. Yes, it's been a while. I've had to take care of some accounting duties because the last 4 years have been so busy. It all sort of caught up with me. I had to get it done. Otherwise, I could have been in a bit of strife. So anyway, it's all done. And I'm happy to be back here for RuggaMatrix International, episode 180. Les Kiss, how are you doing?
Bronk, how are you? I'm going very well, thank you, mate. I'm glad you got those affairs sorted. I'd hate to have to visit you in jail or something like that, mate.
Not again. What about the, is that a hat, mate?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, I use that trick too. Just every now and then.
Falling out or going grey, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. All right, Les, well, thank you very much for joining us. I haven't got that long with you, but I thought we'd just get a show out of the way after the Autumn Internationals. And what a pulsating series across the Northern Hemisphere we've had. And I guess we'll start with the games that are relevant to you and I, Les. The Australia game v Ireland, and I want to talk about the New Zealand-Ireland game as well. Let's start with the good news for you, Les. What an epic game against the All Blacks. Now, that's the first time you've pushed them to the wall. I remember in that second test in New Zealand, not so long ago, you came so close to pipping them. But you did everything possible. You went out to a really big lead, and the lads just got pipped by the Kiwis right at the final whistle. In fact, I guess if you're going to say, in injury time.
Yeah, it's a little bit devastating, that's for sure. It's I'm not sure if it was good news, as you put it at the beginning there, Bronk, but certainly some positives to take from it. It's the third game into a new regime and or new management, and we needed something to happen and go forward in a progressive way, and the boys put something together pretty special. Unfortunately, we just weren't capable of just taking those last couple of steps to nail that elusive victory and make some history. But look, some real good positives to come from it. But they're a class team, New Zealand, and to go 14 wins in a calendar year is pretty huge. So it's a massive achievement by them.
We can go into detail about how they got a second kick at the end, but I just want to ask you, how did you manage to compete so well against the All Blacks in that first half in particular? Was it a case that maybe they'd fatigued a bit, but I guess I don't want to take away from your game plan at all.
Yeah, look, it's usually one of the statements that come up on any team that's at the end of their season, that there might be a fatigue factor. When we smashed Argentina at the end of the year last year, 48 to something, it was put on the back of fatigue. New Zealand getting beaten by England last year, a little bit of it was put to fatigue. When the Northern Hemisphere teams travel south, people say that, at the end of the season there are some fatigue factors. But ultimately, I think, whilst some of those things may be relevant, I think in Test match rugby it's about, putting your hand up for that game and ensure that you represent your country well. And I think most people and most players would do that. So, some people might allude to that, but I think overall the pace at which we played the game, we controlled the error rate early. We created quick ball. It wasn't anything fancy. It was just simple stuff that got us on the front foot. And we got two quick tries. The third try came. We forced an error through the defence and suddenly Rob Kearney sprinting 60, 65 metres. It has become 80, 90, as you can imagine. Rob talking about that, but he sprinted the field to score, and suddenly we're 19-0 up. So it certainly was an exciting time. But you know, it's about the whole game. It's about every minute of the game that we talk about, and you know, as we moved into the second half, we had an intention to play with the tempo and keep attacking, and we just couldn't control the game as well as we would have liked. And in the end, we just gave them too much, and we were running low, obviously, and they came home. It was pretty fascinating, really, when you look at it over video again, because there are a lot of turning points and major points throughout the game that could have tipped it even further our way, but they certainly kept just hanging in.
I saw Paul O'Connell on his knees at the end of the game after the second kick was allowed to be taken. By the way, were you happy with that decision? I don't want to say you were happy with the decision, but what did you think about that?
Well, the truth of it is we did the same thing on their previous kick, and he kicked it. Otherwise, he would have, but he kicked the goal that time, Cruden, and the ref said don't do it again, or warned us that it would have been a second chance from. So to double up was pretty silly. Mind you, a draw, in some ways a draw would have been worse to take, I think. You know what they say, a better draw. And and you know, we wanted to win. We wanted to make history. The boys were driven to do that. And you know, it was a big play by us, and in terms of turning up for that game. And a draw, probably I'd still be getting over it now. You know, it's tough to get over, but that's life.
Yeah, so Paul O'Connell, he puts everything in, doesn't he?
Yeah,
you felt so sorry for him.
Yeah, but himself, the whole team. You know, Paul's captaincy was sublime throughout the week and the lead up to the game. He certainly put his hand up and started to take real control of what that team meant for him and his group, and what it meant to be stepping out into Aviva and doing a job there. And he was brilliant, and he was obviously exhausted at the end of the game. He hasn't had a lot of run of games this year, and he's still not at peak fitness. So hopefully we will, and I'm sure we will see that come to the fore in the Six Nations. How
did Brian O'Driscoll go this autumn series, Les, from your point of view?
Yeah, Brian unfortunately had an injury early in the season. He played his first game back from his off season was sublime. He had a brilliant match. Then he had an injury. It kept at him, and he couldn't quite get going. And but we managed to get him on the field for the Samoa game, and I think he improved on each game. I think from Brian's standards, it wasn't top shelf, but I still think you saw the value of him come through at important times in the game. You know, some uncharacteristic errors here and there, but I don't think that was just Drico. Everyone makes those, but I think he improved as it went on, and the longer he stays on the park and plays games, he'll be in fine fettle for our next challenges. But I really felt for Drico. It's one of those things that he hasn't achieved. I know at Christchurch last year it was down to the wire again, and you know, certain refereeing decisions that you can argue about might make you happy, but the bottom line is it was a loss there, and again we came so close, and it was another loss. So I do feel for Drico, and you don't know when the next chance is to come up and play against them. But as it looks, Drico might be finished by the time that happens. We certainly don't have one in the next 8 months, and I think he's retired at the end of the year.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was wonderful to see him play in the Lions series. I know it was controversial that he didn't play in the final test, but, you know, you can't deny that he's had a great career. The other thing, Les, that you've come back from a pretty hefty loss against the Wallabies. How did you address that?
Yeah, there was a general, or a collective disappointment in that game. You know, there's a lot of new things that we're bringing through with Joe, you know, taking the reins and bringing in, you know, some different approaches and different thinking. We've explored different tactical fronts that we want to experiment with and and see where we can go with them in attack and defence and in set piece. We've got a new set piece coach in John Plumtree. So there was a lot of things that we were putting together in terms of a new sense for the boys, but we didn't want to over inundate them. I don't think we went overboard, but there was still new information and the guys getting used to that. And I think in the Australia game we just weren't quite tuned into it as we would have liked to. And I think the New Zealand game was certainly, you could see things become more clearer in terms of how we went about our business. And what I would have loved is another 2 or 3 games, and I think you would have seen some real things come through that we were working on. And I think we saw enough in the 3 games, particularly the All Black game, to say that the things that we're looking at are definitely the right way to go. And we don't get much time with them this time of year, but we've got a Christmas camp for a night or 2 days, and then we've got the Six Nations. That's 7 or 8 weeks away, so it's not far. But hopefully we can get a run during the Six Nations and over 9 weeks and produce what we did against New Zealand.
Oh, I think it's going to give you tremendous confidence, and a player like Quade Cooper is now playing with confidence, and I think it's improved Will Genia's game. He's getting back towards, he's not there yet, but he's getting back towards that status of the world's best scrum half. Now, that confidence means he's pulling off unbelievable flick passes, he's running at speed at the line, he's varying the play. Ewan McKenzie made him vice captain. And everyone's saying, well, what a surprise. But if you look at his track record, Ewan has shown a lot of belief. Curtly Beale before him in 08. And, of course, he made Quade Cooper the general for the Reds, and they won in 2011. So, I mean, you and I know him closely, but Les, just a couple of points from you about how you're not surprised to see this happen with Quade.
No, not at all. There's been some astute moves by Ewan since he's become the coach of the Wallabies. You look at their matches from day one, it didn't quite click for them, and we understand totally. In actual fact, they empathise with our situation, knowing that things do take time, and you've got to be patient. The most important thing, and you know how Link was with this, we're the same here with Joe. It's important that the people that matter truly believe and understand what we're trying to achieve, and that's the people inside the camp. We knew we were doing the right things, and we just had to be patient and keep working away and keep demanding things to ensure that we met the standard and the basic excellence that we're trying to achieve. And we just had to keep working away with it. And you can actually see what the last 3 or 4 games for the Wallabies has shown. Things are starting to come through. Confidence is a big part to play in that. And I also think some very brave and courageous decisions that have been made. You can't really shift someone's thinking or a team's thinking unless you make some big decisions, and Ewan's had to make a few, and I think they've been proven to be good decisions. And Ben Mowen coming in as the captaincy, giving Horwell a chance to work on his game. Quade becoming vice captain, and I tell you that he's playing sensational rugby. He's actually become more physical in defence as well, and hats off to Nick Scrivener there as the defence coach. I think they've done a fantastic job with them overall. But besides the fact that he's playing good footy and doing all that, and the team are doing that, I think what Ewan would be expecting to be building over the last period in terms of culture, we're definitely starting to see that come through now, and I think they should be very happy where they are, and I'd imagine they'll only improve from now, particularly when you got someone like Folau at the back as well. Just makes a huge difference. And when you look at some of the players that come back into them, they're going to be a real handful right through to the World Cup.
Les, what is it about Wales and Australia? Wales, they've had some close calls, but they just can't beat Australia. And it's been going on for a long time now, 8 or 9 matches or something like that.
Yeah, it's fascinating, isn't it?
It's amazing, isn't it? And there's a lot of lines in that team. It was a pulsating test match, unbelievable at Millennium Stadium last weekend.
Yeah, well, people now are saying that if Quade was playing in the Australian team with the lines of one and all this sort of stuff, people are starting to question those situations that existed at the time. But I think,
can I just jump in? I don't think Australia would have, because the he never performed under the previous coach. And it goes all the way back to 2011. So, yeah, it's a really simple idea. He needed to be playing unbroken and developing.
Yeah.
And look, it didn't start that great when he came back, but he's been growing in confidence, as we said before. So, yeah, I say, even if Quade played in the Lions series, that wouldn't have delivered victory. I'll tell you what, it would have made it a bit easier than having a winger play at 10.
Yeah. But look, those opinions will abound, and that's fine. But I think
I know I'm right.
Anything, you're probably always right, mate. But the frustrating thing for Wales is obviously that they just can't get over the line there, and whatever they seem to throw at Australia seem to be able to manage and handle and come back and score late points to win a game. And this game, I thought they were unlucky not to have probably 3 more tries under their belt at midway through the second half. And I think a couple of calls helped Wales, kept them in the game and gave them a chance to get that result in the end, that close in terms of the result. But they are brilliant in terms of being able to play a power game when they get going, Wales, and they proved that when they got a bit of ball, got a couple of calls, and then they really came home like a train. But full credit, Australia really become a tough customer again, and I think overall the boys there. The Wallabies should be in a good place, as I said earlier. Look, nothing's guaranteed going forward. It's every test match is a test in itself, and you've got to prepare and improve end on, because they've got to play South Africa and New Zealand a number of times next year, and Argentina. And I think they play England in the summer. So New Zealand play England in the summer. Sorry. So they've got some tough games coming up for Australia, but they're definitely improving.
I know you've got to run, Les, but just 2 more quick ones. England beat Australia. Australia were their own worst enemy. Some diabolical mistakes, but some disgraceful efforts from the referees on the field and off the field. I mean the fact that that try, the winning try, wasn't an obstruction was just incredible by England. And it just goes to show that we need to lift the standard in these positions because there's so much at stake.
Yeah. Look, that the foot in the line. There was some real obvious errors there, which aren't for me to judge the referees on. But I know that the processes will look after those things. Joel Juic would have addressed those issues. The referees are human. They look at their errors as well, and hopefully they can improve their standards as they go along. But it was one that unfortunately, would you say it cost Australia? You probably would. It was a 90-metre turnaround, and they made the crucial error that gave them a try as well, the obstruction. Hard to take, but then again, sometimes you just have to handle those things and nail the things you have to, and ensure that you don't.
They still have plenty of time to win the game. There's no doubt about that.
I think so. Yeah. But then that's sometimes you need those adversities to really, really challenge you and test you internally, and see how you come through it. The old character building process is always important, and I'm sure that certainly helped Australia. Look, they by no means would they be saying that they've been perfect on this tour. Even the Italian game wasn't perfect, but you could see things starting to really evolve and move in a positive direction for them. And that England game was costly. They would have got the Grand Slam if that didn't happen. But England, again, have been
not bad, are they?
Yeah, they've stood up. I think their pack power is massive. They use it well. They use the kicking game of Farrell very well. They got good speed across the park, so they can scramble in defence and save situations. Probably missed Manu Tuolangi a little bit in terms of thrust in midfield, but overall they're only going to improve. I think Stuart Lancaster's doing a fine job there, and of the nations up here, that they've come out with the best record in this recent internationals over November. So. They would have liked more, but they would feel pretty confident going into the Six Nations, I think.
And just the last one, Les. Australia have done well, but can't beat teams above them on the table. They've been lucky with the rankings with that victory over the Wales, because this year was a pivotal game for them, because if they'd lost the game, it would have been 9 losses in the calendar year, the worst ever in Australian professional history. Whereas in the end, they've got 4 straight basically, and head into the next season on a high. But you look at what Australia's trying to do with the teams above them. South Africa and New Zealand. I mean, I'm really a big fan of what South Africa are building there. Is it athleticism, Les, or is it the coaching now? Because it's just like, you look how South New Zealand were managed just to dig deep against you. They also managed to dig deep against England, went under the pump. They just know how to win, but it's always the go-to players that produce the goods.
Yeah, well, I think there's a few points. Look, it's the mentality, the psychological side of it comes into play. The athleticism, or the type of athletes that you're preparing with, can certainly make a difference if they're bigger, faster, stronger, and then have the requisite skill sets to complement that. Then you're going to be a dangerous team. New Zealand has that all over them, but coaching has a major part to play. But in my view, I think. I'm of the same view as you. If there is a real team that can actually really take real strong steps through to the World Cup, I think it's South Africa. I think they're already starting to show it. I think Heineke Meyer is putting together a really, really, potent mix of game. They can play to their strength. Which is their huge physicality, their forward pack, their driving game, but they can quickly move to some real sublime skill sets in their back line, and also some of their back row. They change the tempo well,
don't they? I mean, that's what New Zealand do as well.
I've been fascinated by how they've developed in recent times, and their defence is strong. I think they're becoming the package that would be a real scare for New Zealand going, over the next 24 or 12 to 24 months. I think they're the real team to watch. Australia will improve and get better, but if there's one team I think that could possibly knock off New Zealand, over a 3-test series at the moment, it's probably the Springboks, and I really think they're doing some great things more recently, and I think they're only going to be driven to do more. And I think a lot of that credit has to go to Heineke Meyer and his coaching staff for how they've changed their way they think about the game, the way they're preparing for their games, the way they're actually coaching the team and allowing things to be a little bit more broader in terms of what they bring to the game in their tactical makeup. So overall, they're going to be a package to handle. I tell you, they look potent all across the park when you see them at their best, and no one will forget that match. I think it's the match of the decade is the New Zealand and South Africa, Ellis Park, I think it was. Yes. What a fantastic game that was, and I think you saw some of those things come through from South Africa then.
Yeah, it's great to watch. Les, I'll let you go now. Just quickly, what's the plan for you the next couple of weeks? Obviously, you're looking back at club footy and then Heineken Cup and all that
Heineken Cup's back on our doorstep. It's amazing, so we've got a lot of interest in our, Leinster home and away to Northampton, big games. Munster, some big home and away. Ulster got Treviso home and away, expecting to probably bounce on from their start previously. Connacht have a tough one against Toulouse away than home. So our clubs have got some real challenges over the next couple of weeks, so we're looking forward to seeing that happen. We've got a day and a half, 2 nights basically with a national squad we've called in, and that just leads us into Christmas. But then I like Christmas period. We have the local derbies here. They're brilliant. And then it'll be only 3 to 4 weeks before we're back, before we have a Wolfhounds match. And then we're into two home games. 2 first games of the Six Nations are home matches, Scotland and Wales. So there's going to be a lot of expectation around that. So that's our challenge going forward to get right for that time. And in between now and then, we've got a lot of games to assess the boys in. So looking forward to it over the Christmas period, mate. That's what it stands for me at this stage.
All right, great stuff. And while I've got you, mate, I guess you'd join with me in saying all the very best to Eddie Jones, who is out of hospital after having a stroke, and is a great loyal friend of us on RuggaMatrix, and just a friend, full stop.
Yeah, look, it's tough when you see those things happen out there to guys, and look, he's on his way to good recovery, so that's the main thing.
Yeah, excellent stuff. All right, Kissy, you're looking good in that hat. You look like a SEAL team member from the 80s.
I don't think I'm that dangerous.
Have you seen Anchorman 2 yet? You're going to have to go and see that.
No, I'm stinging to see it. It's coming through shortly. My son Lachlan, he loved the first one as well, so we're going to go and see it. And by the beard of Goose, by the beard of Zeus, I'm looking forward to that one, mate. So
that was one of your favourites at the Waratahs. Absolutely. All right, mate. Look, we had to be a quick one. We're glad we're back on deck. I'm glad I've finished all the accounting. And thanks again to Strike for sponsoring us, strike.com.au. Don't forget to go there to pick up all your phone stuff. I've got to do it. I've picked up a new Nexus 5, Les. So I'm all Google now.
Whoa, that's dangerous too, is it?
It's a good piece of hardware.
I'll have to come over. Looks like I'll be getting home.
Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, we'll have to catch up.
Sometime over the next 3 years, and I might catch.
Home's Queensland for you now, isn't it?
Okay, mate.
All right, mate. There he is, Les Kiss. Cheer, buddy.
Thanks
There's the
mate.
wave. Les Kiss joining us from Dublin tonight. Thank you for joining us. As I said, it's been agonising to be away for a couple of months, but we're back and we'll see you all the way through Christmas, end of the new year, and we'll be chiming in with Lottie Takiri soon too, up there at Leinster, and see how he is going with Joe Smith's former club. All right, that is it for RuggaMatrix International. We'll speak to you next week.